Welcome back to week 2 of the gambling show. I'm here with Yanni. Not a great week for me. I got some explaining to do. How's it going, man?
What's up, buddy?
Let's just get right into it. So we'll do the week 1 recap first. This, if you, astute viewers could notice a lot of red on my side of the screen. This is one of the worst beatings I've taken in quite some time. That happens sometimes. Come back strong this week. But we'll start with the Ravens at Chiefs. I had the under of 46 and a half. The total ended up hitting 47. So I'm not really upset by my process there. I think that the idea was good. There were some things like Justin Tucker, the most automatic kicker of all time, missing a field goal that could have pushed the score up. But also, like the Ravens' offense looked broken for the entire first half too. It is what it is. Vegas got it within a half a point. Somebody has to pay for the chandeliers. We took the L there. Next, my only W of the week, the Eagles -3. That one was actually a bit of a sweat too. A lot of back and forth between Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love in Brazil on that piece of shit field. I mean, Jordan Love goes out injured, but the Eagles kind of already had it in hand before that happened. Saquon's back. Saquon's all the way back. He's going to be a weapon on that Eagles team. Glad I got one right. I'm going to save the Falcons for Yanni to go over because we were both on that one. It was an L. It was our first consensus pick of the year. Okay, the Panthers plus 4.5. I got some explaining to do on this one. I spent all of last episode glazing the Panthers, telling you all of the reasons why the Panthers were a good bet, all of the reasons why I was so encouraged by Bryce Young and Dave Canales. They came out week 1 and showed me, hey, we still fucking suck. It's unfortunate. I mean, plus 4.5. I think plus 30 would have covered, wouldn't have covered. So it is what it is. They made Derek Carr look like an elite quarterback in this league. Bryce Young could not orchestrate the offense whatsoever. They look completely broken. It was not the bet was dead within the first after Bryce Young threw his first pass, which was an interception. You know, the good news about betting, right, is you don't lose more. You don't lose more by your call being so bad. It's just an 0 and 1. It is what it is. I've adjusted my view of this Panthers team. I will not be so irresponsible. I'm sorry. There are a lot of trends that were saying that the Panthers and a lot of other analysts also got egg on their face. I'll just take that one. And then last but not least, the Raiders +3. This was kind of a weird one, and I did catch the back half of this game. I don't think the Raiders played that bad. I think in terms of what that game was, I think they were in it, for at least to a certain extent. I think there were some bad coaching calls by their coach. What's his name? I forgot his
Antonio.
Antonio Pierce. My bad. Sorry, Antonio. There was a bad call by Antonio Pierce on 4th and 1 when you're down on the opponent's 43-yard line. He decided to punt, which if it was last
Yep.
year and he was coaching to win the job, he wouldn't have done that. So I don't know why he did it there. Um,
Yep.
the play calling was not great, and the Chargers, they looked put together. They looked like they actually had an identity, which played to their benefit. They did what they needed to do to win that game. I'm not adjusting my priors on Gardner Minshew. I still think this Raiders team will be better than advertised, but it took it out that week. It's okay. It happens. So I finished the week at 1-4. I lost $301.96. I don't think I was that negative for the totality of last year. So we face planted out of the gate here. But we're gonna get better this week. And I'll pass it off to Yanni for his recap.
Yeah. So Falcons, Steelers, obviously I had heavy bags on that because I was parlaying the under with the Falcons -3. And I think me and Ted's idea of what the game was going to look like was actually fairly on point, right? Two good defenses, two lesser known quarterbacks. We were expecting Russell Wilson when we placed the bet. And that was actually a big part of me taking the Falcons, and I'm sure Ted too. Kind of caught a tough break with Justin Fields going in because I think at this point in their careers, Justin Fields is just a more explosive quarterback, and he actually made some really nice passes to George Pickens during the game. Um, I feel good about the call on the under. Obviously, it hit. I wish I hadn't parlayed it with the Falcons, but if you had told me that the Steelers would not get a single touchdown in the game, I would have still taken the Falcons again. I wouldn't have guessed they would have lost that way. Kirk Cousins did not look healthy. I think that's really just the biggest thing that happened. Kirk Cousins did not look ready to be out there. There's some practice film going around of him this week. It looks really bad. If you're interested in his, straight from the horse's mouth, you can go see his interview with Rich Eisen this week. Okay, Texans minus 2.5 was weird because they won by 2. They went for it on. They went for 2 on the goal line, and that was the difference between hitting that bet or not. Kind of a bad beat there, man. Um, I don't regret that at all, though. They lost. They won by 2. They didn't get the hook on the 2. It's very rarely is that going to happen in your betting in the year. Both teams kind of looked as advertised. Anthony Richardson may be a little better than you would have thought. Falcons minus 1.5. That was pretty simple. That line was atrociously incorrect. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, an actual legitimate high-end coaching staff, and the Giants staff aren't bad, but going against Daniel Jones, going against just a very talentless roster. To me, that was an easy bet. I had no hesitation smashing it. I wish I could have put 200 on it. And then Vikings minus 2.5. As Ted said, I thought something was up with this line because it seems so fishy, and I did too. I think Vegas just did not adjust to CeeDee Lamb or the fact that Deshaun Watson's not a football player anymore. They treated it like the Browns had a quarterback in this game, and little did we know they did not. He took 6 sacks in the game, all of which were accredited to him. Not his O-line, not the pressure, not the blitzes. He generated 6 sacks with his own decision-making and movement. It's just a mess. So we're happy to see it come home. I did lose $18 on a winning week going 3-2, and that is just because the parlay didn't hit. But we're trying another one this week, so we'll see.
Yep, the parlays will do that to you, but at least one of us is winning in some sense, so that's good. We need that for the show. But
Sure.
anyways, let's reveal the week 2 picks. I'll start first. I've got the Jaguars -3 this week. I've got the Jets and Titans under 41.5. I've got the Chiefs -5.5. And then I'm rolling out the I fucking hate these franchises parlay between the Seahawks -3.5 and the Steelers -2.5. If the parlay hits, that returns $371.01. The other single bets would return $564.83 for a total potential return if we have a 5-0 week of $935.84. The total cost of the ticket is going to be $400 because the parlays are together as one single $100 bet. And if I have a 5-0 week, I can get back in the green again. That's what we're going for. And I can also get above 500. So, yeah, looking for a bounce back week for me. And we'll get into the game breakdown. It's a little bit later.
Okay, taking our 49ers at -5.5, Chargers at -4.5, Colts at -3.5, parlayed with the Colts Packers over, and then the Steelers -2.5. Parlay return 384, basically 385. Other returns 569. Total potential return 954 for a total cost of 400. I'm $18 in the hole, but I think I can make it back this week. See.
All right, I'll start it off with my first one. The Browns are going into Jacksonville to play the Jaguars, and I've got the Jaguars -3. The over/under on this game is 41.5. 85% of the money is on the Jaguars, and only 28% of bets are on the Jaguars. So we have an almost 60% difference between the bets and money here. So I am with the big bettors here. The guys with a lot of money, the whales are swimming. They're going heavy on Jacksonville. So we'll start with this. The Jaguars had a weird week 1. They came out looking good against the Dolphins in the first half, and they just melted down in the second half, gave up, I believe, a 14-point lead. So I think, at least when you're evaluating this Jaguars team, it's what do we believe this team is? To me, I think they just played a bad half of football. It happens to a lot of teams. I am of the belief that this Jaguars team, I don't think they're a top contender or anything. I don't think they're one of the AFC elites, but I think they're a good team. I think they're coached pretty well. I think they still have a young quarterback who is developing. I think there's a lot more to like about this Jaguars team than to not like. So I'm kind of taking that first half of week 1 as more of what they are, as a finished product, than the meltdown in the second half. To build on what we were talking about earlier, Tug is just absolutely completely broken. Like this guy is not an NFL quarterback. He is, I don't know. He lost his soul on the massage table. I cannot explain what's happened to him, but it's night and day between rookie Deshaun Watson and what he is now. Plus, we have a new allegation that came out this week. Regardless of whether or not that's true, that's going to be that's going to be just hectic for that team to deal with, right? For
Yeah.
those of you who are on Twitter, there was a Twitter clip last week of Deshaun Watson getting sacked, or no, his offensive lineman was on the ground, and Watson offered him his hand to like help him up, and this guy just wouldn't even take it. So I think that this team is fed up with him in that locker
Yeah.
room, and just the franchise is in complete disarray right now. So, kind of to put everything together, right? The Jags have to feel like they let one get away last week. You know, you blow a 14-point lead at halftime. I think they're going to come out pissed and wanting to dominate in this game. And the Browns organization just is a disaster right now. They're looking at trying to void Tug's contract. It's just a mess there. I mean, I'm kind of worried about this Browns defense. They are a very good unit. I'm not taking anything away from them. It's, they got blown out by the Cowboys week one, but the Cowboys, they're a good football team. So I'm still a believer in this Browns defense to a certain extent, but in order to be competitive in the NFL, you have to at least be decent on both sides of the ball. And I think this is a one-sided football team. And -3 is a good number. If the Jaguars win just by a field goal, it's a push. I'm not taking 3.5 or anything. So I mean, I'm on it. I'm on it. I feel pretty good about this one actually, just because I am so out on this Browns team right now until something changes there. Whether that is Deshaun Watson finds a genie bottle and he finds the ball the Monstars stole his powers with and gets them back, or they move on at quarterback. Any thoughts on this one, Yanni? Do you think I'm a stooge? Do you think this is a good pick?
No, so I took a long, hard look at this one. I really did. I think the Jaguars had excellent defense against the Dolphins in terms of the rush game in particular. But I mean, they held the Dolphins to what, like 20 points. Um, so most likely you're right. I think most likely you're going to. I did really think about it. I'm just a little bit worried that Trevor Lawrence came out and again looked weird. I thought it was injuries last year. He looked weird to me against the Dolphins, dude. I don't know what it is. It was just weird. So my holdup is just with the Browns defense and Trevor's matchup. I don't think it has anything to do with the Browns offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, if the Jaguars clear 21 points, they're winning this game. 21 points. I don't think the Browns will score more than 14. So
Well,
um,
I need it,
it was
man.
just, yeah, it was just about how their defense matches up was the only hesitation for me. But I think you're correct on this, and so do the Whales. So
All right, fair enough. We'll go on to the next one.
okay, this one's mine. I'm taking the Niners -5.5 at the Vikings. The game last year was really fluky, right? We had Debo hurt, Trent hurt, Purdy was apparently concussed or suspected to be concussed. Probably shouldn't have let back. If I remember right, I believe he was in the protocol for like 2 days or something. I don't remember if he formally went in or not, but he had like cleared protocol or there was a concern he was listed with a head injury the week before the game. I don't think that game was very representative of how these two teams match up, and neither do the bettors betting public, and neither do the big spenders. Okay, we have 83% of the dollars and 83% of the bets going on the Niners. Again, we do not check this before, but it always makes you feel good when you kind of have a feeling about something and you see it. Um, I think the biggest thing about this game is going to be the Sam Darnold X factor. He's been in the system for 2 years now. He looked the best he's ever looked throwing the ball. He has the best weapons he's ever had throwing the ball. Aaron Jones is, young and spry, or not young anymore, but he looks spry and healthy to start the season. Aaron Jones has traditionally given the Niners problems, actually. He's always been one of those tough matchups. Niners were one of the top teams last week in broken tackle and missed tackle rate. They also gave up, I believe, the fifth most explosive rushes in the league last week. So I do think between Sam Darnold, between Aaron Jones, they'll be able to move the ball on him a little bit. It's not going to be like an ass whooping or anything. I will just take no Addison, no Hawkinson. Niners are on fire right now. Jordan Mason's on fire right now. Debo eats up zone coverage. Flores runs some of the highest rates of zone coverage in the NFL. Is that really so does Ayuk for that matter, even though he's more of a man beater. I really think it's a big Kittle game. I think it's a big Debo game. All the factors considered, they haven't won there in 35 years. They're due. Give me the Niners.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to go on the record here. I think Sam Darnold, it sucks. I don't think Sam Darnold is good. I think he was the beneficiary last week of playing the New York Giants, which I think a lot of quarterbacks would look successful against. I believe Sam Darnold was the second rated quarterback
Yeah.
with PFF last week. That's fool's gold. I don't buy it. I mean, the Niners aren't going to have CMC in BA is still rusty. I don't think that matters too much. The only reason I did not bet this one, I guess I'm a little superstitious here. Every single time I bet the Niners last year, they either just outright lost or did not cover. So I didn't want my luck to ruin the Niners' chances here. I think you're absolutely on the right side, though. The Niners haven't won in Minnesota since 1992 thing. I don't take stock into that at all. Who cares, right? Like you could throw trends all day out and kind of say, well, historically they haven't done this, right? But these are different teams. I don't take that too much stock into that.
And just real quick, a developing storyline that I do want to keep track of for the Niners this year that I think might be relevant. I am of the opinion, and I think Niners fans are of the opinion, this is the best secondary that Kyle Shanahan teams have ever had. They stuffed Garrett Wilson pretty thoroughly last week. And I know Lazard sort of went off, but I think if that weird snap delay thing didn't happen, he wouldn't have. And the other touchdown was in garbage time. Let's see how they do against Jefferson this week. I don't think it's going to be a good week for JJ. I think as we see the year go on, we're going to see star receivers struggle against the 49ers. So,
All right.
okay, another one of mine. I'm shocked that Ted was not on this one with it. Ted is very stubborn. He does not like to let go of his takes for a little bit, which is fine. None of us do. His take was that the Panthers aren't complete and utter garbage and that Bryce Young isn't either. I disagree. So I'm taking the Chargers minus 4.5, over under 38.5. I almost bet that, by the way. 88% of the money is on the Chargers, despite 45% of the public bets. So that seems to mean there's a difference in perception between the sharps and between the public on what the Panthers really are. 40% difference is actually pretty sizable. Look, Panthers, Bryce Young, Derek Brown's on the IR. He was their best, really probably one of their best players, maybe their best player. He's certainly up there. To the IR, that's their big guy that stops the runs up the middle. J.K. Dobbins looks like he's on fire. I would guess he keeps it up for another 2 to 3 weeks. And look, the Chargers had a real identity in week one. They stopped the run. They were really effective. Actually, they went from 32nd to first in efficiency against the rush. Are they this explosive team with weapons like they've been in the past? No. Would you expect them to be? No. But Palmer looked pretty good. McConkey looks like a really good pick. It looks like they hit on their free agent running backs, and Herbert looks happy as hell. That's the biggest thing I noticed was he looks so happy, and he's out there breaking down the huddle and screaming F-bombs and all this stuff. I think these two teams could not be going in more different directions. And I don't really want to trash Ted that hard for his Panthers take, because I think he's totally right in the sense that they did get one of the best young offensive head coaches in football, who seems to really know what he's doing with coordinating an offense, getting the most out of his quarterbacks. They have Jonathan Brooks coming on the way. They're a competent coaching staff, and they do have, what I don't even want to say. They don't have young, talented players, but they have guys. So I don't think he's off on any of that. I think nobody could have predicted that Bryce Young would literally come out and look like the worst quarterback in football. And I mean, maybe not the worst. Maybe he's a little better than Deshaun. To me, the story of the Panthers is really, will Bryce Young develop at all? Colin Cowherd sort of said he thinks by Thanksgiving break we're going to know which way they're going with him. I tend to agree, but I've made this call a year and a half ago during their draft. I would have taken Anthony Richardson over him. I had C.J. Stroud first overall. I think this is the Panthers' lot in life while Bryce Young is starting for them.
Well, I'd just like to set the record straight. Yeah, I get the Panthers suck. I've come off that. Really, me not being on this game is an emotional pick. I am rooting for them. I am rooting for them. I hope they do better than they are, because I like Canales. And to speak to your like Bryce Young point, right? Like I think that the people who did not buy into the off-season bullshit saw it coming, because I think it was just an extension of last year, right? We were just trashing him nonstop. He was terrible last year. He looked terrible against the Saints. I mean, I think you're absolutely on the right side here. It's a low over/under, so like it's a lot of points for that over/under, but I think this is probably a blowout. Yeah, that's really all I have about that. The Panthers team did. What are the odds they go 0-17? Is it possible they'd be the first 0-17 team ever?
I don't. I mean, just in their division, I don't know who they're playing week 17 and 18. There's a good chance by the time they get there, like the Falcons are resting starters, maybe, or the Saints, maybe they catch a team resting starters.
Yeah,
I,
it's hard to say,
I
man.
can't think. I cannot think of a team. I mean, if the Giants, if Daniel Jones really stays horrible and starting, maybe they. I don't even know if they play this year. I'm just trying to think of a team they could even win against. I don't know.
Maybe the
I don't know. It's the
Browns.
worst.
Maybe the
It's
Browns.
it's the worst NFL team I've seen in a long time, in a really long time.
Yeah, I mean the onus is really on Bryce, right? Like that this team is constructed such that it will only go as far as Bryce Young goes, and if Bryce Young continues to suck like he has, they're going nowhere. Unfortunately, it is what it
Yeah,
is. Again, viewers of the show, I apologize for being on the Panthers. Take has been adjusted. Handicapping has been adjusted. I don't think you'll see me on them again anytime soon unless it's betting against them. But I wanted to give him a 1 week fandom of mine, so I didn't go against him this time. All right, next I got the first leg of my parlay. I'm riding with the Seahawks going into New England to play the Patriots. For those of you who are also Niners fans, I hate this franchise. I hate the Seahawks so much. I would not be
yep.
on them unless I was extremely confident that this was coming home. So I went with it. I need the wins. Like I said, I'm going with the Seahawks -3.5, and the over/under is 38.5. And I guess before I get into like the money breakdown, this is kind of interesting. So when I was putting together the picks for this game, the line had moved from -3.5 to -3. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'm getting such a great deal. I get the Seahawks at 3, so I get a push if it's only a 3-point win. Perfect. This is awesome. And by the time I had started putting the slides together, it had moved back to 3.5, which means some big giant whale out there saw that it moved to 3 and pounced. And I think that's reflected here in the cash and bets breakdown because 82% of the money is on the Seahawks and only 27% of bets are on the Seahawks. So we got a 55% difference between the money and bets. It's another sharp call. You're gonna notice that we're on the whales side a lot this week. But yeah, the Patriots are coming into this game at an unexpected 1-0. They had a great win last week against the Bengals, and it's their home opener. So I would expect them to be pumped coming into this game, but at the same time, right? Like if you're all juiced up like that, a lot of times that's a classic letdown spot, especially against a Hawks team that they looked really bad against Denver in the first half. I remember before I got on my flight, Yanni texted me and goes, "Man, this Seahawks team looks like a bottom 5, bottom 10 team in the league," right?
Yep.
But in the second half, they kind of pulled away from Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos, and I think a lot of people are kind of starting to ask the question about the Seahawks defense and with Mike McDonald steering the ship, and if they've improved. There's been a lot of draft picks they've had that people have been really high on, like Devin Witherspoon, for example. So there's believers in the pieces on this defense. I personally don't think they're elite yet, but I think that this Patriots team is so one-dimensional and limited offensively that I'm calling it a sell high here, right? Like, so even though the Patriots had a great win last week, like they passed for 120 yards and Joe Burrow looked broken to me. So I think that like in terms of where this Patriots team is valued right now on the market, I just think they're probably a little overvalued. I like this team. Like I like this Patriots team a lot better. I think they've found an identity. I think they're going to be a ground and pound, run the ball with Ramondre team. To me, the game really boils down to can the Seahawks kind of sell out, stop the run, force Jacoby Brissett to try and pass on you. I don't think the Patriots will have success doing that against this defense. I don't know if the Hawks are elite yet on defense. I'm going to need to see them against better competition, and they get luck of the draw. They draw Skylar Thompson and the injured Miami Dolphins next week, so it's looking like a 3-0 start for them potentially. Hate to see it in the division in the NFC West for a team that I hate, but I'm on him this week. What do you think, Yanni?
I think you're right about everything. To me, the only, I don't know that it's only that I can't unsee what I saw in the first half with the Broncos. I know their offense got it going a little bit. Their passing game didn't look great actually. It didn't look like they were really in sync. It looked like it was mostly Kenneth Walker pulling him. And I know you're a Charbonnet believer, so you're probably fine with him being out this week. There was just enough weird stuff. I think you're right. I think the Sharps are right. I would have bet the Seahawks, but they are going into a home game with the Patriots. Christian Gonzalez looks fantastic. He's going to draw the DK matchup. They don't have who I think is their most effective offensive weapon in Kenneth Walker. I know you disagree, but Yeah, I mean that's really it. They didn't like give up rush yards last week. Really, they actually pretty much stuffed the Broncos' backs. So if all you have is Ramondre, they'll probably do okay. I think you're right. I think you're right on the call.
Yeah, I think that Geno Smith, right? I think it's very easy for him to look bad in games, and I'm not shocked that he looked bad against a I would call mid Denver Broncos defense. I
Yeah.
just don't see them having to do too much, right? Like Geno could pass for 120 yards like Jacoby did last week, and I think they still probably win this game with the defense, and running game, and that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah, I mean, to me, you have Mike McDaniel going against Jacoby Brissett. I think you know how highly I think of Mike McDaniel. I think he's the Kyle Shanahan of defense, right? So I think he's going to eat his, take his lunch money.
all right, fair enough. Let's get on to the next one.
Okay, so heavy bags on this game because I'm parlaying both the over and the Colts by 3. The over, I thought the total was a little bit low, 40.5 for a few reasons. The Colts to me seem like a team that when everyone's out there and everyone's healthy, dude, Anthony Richardson, I've said this like 3 times this week, but it's because I love AD Mitchell as a player. I wish the Niners had taken him in the first round. Anthony Richardson missed AD Mitchell by like a foot on 2 throws that would have added 150 yards and 2 touchdowns to their game total. They should have had like a 35 or 40 point game against the Texans, who are a way better defense than the Packers. So I'm looking at it going, well, 40.5, that didn't seem right to me. I think you can pencil the Colts in for 28 points at least, but probably 31 or 35. I really do think they're that explosive of a team. And so, like, if I think they're going to get 3 quarters or like 90% of the points on their own, I'll probably just go ahead and bet the over. And that's my thinking. And then the -3 part, the Packers are rolling out Malik Willis against the Colts. The Colts actually did a pretty good job against CJ Stroud. It was more Mixon that ate him up. And I know Jacobs will be a problem. There'll probably be a lot more read option plays and that sort of thing with Malik Willis in there. Jacobs will probably have a pretty good day, which again, though, is part of my over bet, right? That I do actually think the Packers will score enough points to push this thing over the 40.5 limit. 62% of the money on the Colts, 68% of the money on the over. So I love to see that. It does look like people keyed onto that. And 65 and 76 for the percentage of overall bets, respectively. I can't imagine why people would be on the Packers here. That's actually shocking to me that it's only 65%. But the general consensus is the Colts and the over. Malik Willis, I actually kind of like him. Like, I thought he was kind of interesting coming out of college, but more so as like a gadget guy. I didn't think he'd really catch on in the league, but he's almost certainly not an NFL caliber starter. When you trade for a day 3 pick a week before the season, he's only been in their system 2 weeks. Jaden Reed also came up lame today, I believe. He picked up 2 new injuries, which I don't know if he was getting treatment for them and they got worse or if they popped up. But I mean, if Jaden Reed's injured, come on, be serious here. Yeah, and then we like to call Anthony Richardson an alien. Again, the reason I would have taken him right after CJ Stroud, I would have gone CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson in the draft. That's how I had him ranked. Because at least with Anthony Richardson, he has the tools, the physical tools to be one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. 30 pounds heavier than Lamar, faster with his legs. And he made a throw last week. Everyone's seen it. That realistically only Josh Allen and Mahomes could make in the league. And that's maybe they don't make that. And then maybe prime Aaron Rodgers. It's a throw that very few people who've ever played in the NFL could make. So if you're that much of a freak athlete and you're hitting things like that, hopefully he gets more consistent with the accuracy. Yeah, yeah, I like it. And just a kind of side note, Pittman has actually gotten more targets per game with Richardson than he had with Minshew. So you'd have to think at some point, as Richardson settles down a little bit, as he gets a little more accurate, Pittman's going to get going. I think the offense is going to be tremendous. So for all those reasons, Colts -3 parlayed with the over.
I think you're on the right side here. I'll do a little devil's advocate or try and get inside the brains of the people who are betting the Packers here. I think there's probably a lot of respect for bettors for Matt LaFleur and what he's been able to do, right? Like this Packers team, his record as a head coach is excellent. His record ATS as a head coach is excellent. For me personally, I have no doubt whatsoever that Malik Willis will not be able to throw the football. I think this Packers team in this game is going to be one dimensional. I think they're only going to be able to run. And I think if the Colts key onto that, they should have some success. The reason I did not bet the Colts -3 here, number one, It almost looked too good to me, which I know I said last week on your Cowboys bet that hit. And reason number two, Anthony Richardson has been like I love the kid. I think he's supremely talented, but also I think it's fair to say he's been super erratic. Like last week, he only completed 9 balls. I think that's going to improve with him with time. But I'm personally, it would not shock me if he like fumbled the ball like inside their own 20 or something, and the Packers scored that way. So for those of you prop bettors out there, Packers anytime touchdown on defense, maybe, maybe. But yeah, if I had to pick a side, I think you're on the right side. But I'll just grab my popcorn and watch this one. And if it is another too good to be true, that so it was true and I missed out on one. Oh well. I like my other picks this week though, so not didn't feel too bad sitting this one out. But all right, next one is me, and I am taking the Jets and Titans under 41 and a half. 52% of the money is on the under, and 22% of bets are on the under. So we have a 30% difference between the bets and the money here. So this is a whale certified pick, but definitely less people are picking the under here than the over. Um, we'll start with the Titans defense. I think it's fair to ask at this point, like, has the dynamic with this team changed? Last week the Titans defense essentially single-handedly kept them in the game. Their offense wasn't doing much outside of Tony Pollard, and I mean the offense and Will Levis lost them the game. That was not 2 defensive touchdowns given up to the Bears. Like, I mean, you can't play offense for him too, right? So I think with the addition of L'Jarius Sneed, this Titans team has kind of shored up their problems with the pass defense a little bit. So I'm kind of evaluating them as probably a top of the league type of unit. Rodgers, on that note, is playing with his second full game with this Jets offense. He just had his first full game against the 49ers. That was a buzzsaw he ran into. I think that's not any sort of condemnation of him as a player right now. I don't think he's over the hill. I think they just played a very, very good defense and a very, very good team. And I like the Jets personnel, but the fact that this is only a second game, right? I think this kind of it relates to the reason why I'm personally fading a lot of these rookie quarterbacks. I think it takes a while for the guys to just get used to each other and for the offense to click. You can practice as much as you want. Like Aaron was technically practicing last year, right? But it's different when you're facing live bullets, and I just think it'll take them a little bit to be all the way back. I kind of hit on this next bullet, right? Like Will Levis looked shaky. I still like the kid. I'm still in on his talent. But the Jets defense is great. And I mean, he kind of single-handedly lost the game for the Titans last week. I'll say this again because it was such a good quote. The Titans coach, Brian Callahan, came out after the game and said, yeah, if we had just punted on 1st and 10 every drive, we probably win that game against the Bears. So it was not a great start for him. I like him long term, but I think this will be a tough week for him. And then kind of my last note on this game is betting unders the new hotness. So right now, right, like I was looking at this line and I was wondering why. First of all, only 22% of bets were on the under, but there was like a 30% difference in how much money is being placed on the under. And I'm just kind of thinking that at this point, betting unders is starting to become like the betting meta, right? Like every single professional handicapper you talk to, I would assume almost 95% of them, if they're betting a total, are betting the under. So it kind of worries me a little bit. Like usually when I see a 30% difference between the money and bets, I'm thinking that I'm on the sharp side here. I'm wondering if I'm just with the rich, stupid people on this one that love betting unders. Out of all my bets this week, I probably feel the least confident about this game because I like a lot of the offensive pieces on both teams, really. But to me, I'm kind of handicapping this as both teams just aren't there yet. Like if the Jets and Titans were playing this game week 16 of this year, there's no shot I'm taking the under because I think that long term both of these teams will have success, but I just don't see it this week. I see a tight defensive matchup, a lot of running the ball, etc. So what do you think, Yanni? I remember this when we were going over our picks. This was the one you were kind of the most shocked at, I think, that I had picked.
Yeah, yeah. first of all, does that put it in perspective about why I'm hammering that over? They have this game at 41.5 and had the Colts Packers at 40.5. Does that seem like those two should be? To me, that's like a bizarre. When you look at the offenses involved in those games, right? That's a bizarre two lines. So I mean, I looked it up while you were talking, right? The Jets led up 32 to the Niners last week, but they scored 19. I think if you are giving up, if you're putting up 19 points on the Niners, right? Obviously, it's not like algebra. I think a pretty good chance that you get like 21 to 24 out of the Jets, right? At least, maybe a little more. What
Mhm.
I think is going to cause you to hit this though is that Snead shadows receivers. That's his thing. He takes out number one receivers. We saw it in the Super Bowl. We saw it all year last year. And if Garrett Wilson gets effectively taken out of this game, right, that under's hidden. That under's hidden. And if Will Levis shows the decision making he showed last week, um, and the Jets have sauce, right, to take away Ridley. So I just wouldn't touch. I just wouldn't touch it because it's so weird. It's such a weird.
It
I
is
don't
a
know.
weird one. Like I
It was
definitely
so.
have my hesitation about this game for sure, but
And as far as betting, overs versus unders or whatever, to me, like remember last year I started getting on the unders toward the end of the year and I started hitting them pretty consistently.
mhm.
To me, it's just a lot more things have to go right to hit the over. You're just betting on a lot more things when you hit the over. When you hit the under, it's like, both teams are going to have trouble. Yeah, that's every week in the NFL. It's interesting though. We'll keep an eye on it. This is what do we have now? Two unders, one each, and then I have an over. We'll see how we do against on point totals.
Oh, yeah. All right, next one is also me, and I'm taking the Chiefs -5.5 going into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The
Yep.
over/under on this game is 47.5 points. 84% of the money is on the Chiefs, and 38%
Yep.
of the bets are on the Chiefs. So this is a huge, huge discrepancy. I'm swimming
Yep.
with the whales again, and we've been on the sharp side. We've been on the big money side on every single one of our bets so far, which honestly, it feels pretty good. It feels like we might be onto something here. But the main reason I'm taking this game is that I am just going to go ahead and say that Burrow is not healthy and not right now. There is no reason that this Bengals team, as constructed with Joe Burrow, with Jamar Chase, should have lost to the Patriots last week. The Patriots are what the Patriots are, right? You can run the ball, you can play good defense, you can do all of that, but if you play a complete team with a decent offense, they're never winning that game. So what that tells me is this Bengals team is not right now. Joe Burrow is not healthy. If you guys have seen the water bottle, if you guys have seen Water Bottle Gate, I mean there's talk right now about Burrow maybe not being back ever. It doesn't look good. You have no T. Higgins, Jamar Chase after a basically holdout all off season. I projected this the same way with Brandon Ayuk. It takes these guys a little bit to get used to it, right? Like no matter how talented and great Jamar Chase is, like he's not going to be at 100%. And Zach Moss is your bell cow. Like so, really in every single facet, this Bengals team I view as like being downgraded from what they were last year, and they were disappointing last year too. And they're going against what I think is probably the best and most complete Chiefs team under the Andy Reid Mahomes era. So I really don't see how this isn't a blowout. I get that historically Mahomes is a big favorite is a bad bet. Um, if you are a trend better, if you're someone who pays attention to the trends, gives respect to the macro trends and kind of bets in that way, you would know that Chiefs is big favorites is a bad spot, and especially the Bengals have played the Chiefs pretty tight recently, right? So they were the last team to beat Mahomes in the playoffs for that fact, but I'm calling this. I don't think it's a rivalry anymore. I think these teams have gotten to a point where the Chiefs have been improving at such a crazy level, and the Bengals just cannot get their shit together. That I don't care. I will go against the trends on this, even though it has. I'm sure when the schedule makers put this game together, right, they probably saw this as a big, huge prime time game that would be competitive and awesome and like a great watch. I don't think so. I think the Chiefs beat the shit out of the Bengals this game. Give me the Chiefs -5.5. You got any thoughts on this one, bud?
No, you're spot on, man. You're spot on. So look, I thought about this one. I did take again a long hard look at it. Bengals first home game. I believe, right? Or no, they were home last week, huh? Um, Bengals home game, I don't know. So to me, that was the whole thing. I don't know if Burrow's actually healthy or not. He was laughing. Did I do something weird with a water bottle video? To me, it looked weird. I don't know if Chase is okay. He went like I think 6 and 60 last week. Not terrible. Higgins is out. Um, it's just weird. So that was again same thing I said in the last game. If I'm really uncomfortable with like a thing in terms of just I cannot see how it goes because I don't know and I'm just kind of guessing, I back out. Almost certainly, though, the Chiefs beat them. I mean, that's not a question. What does the spread look like? What do they do? I'm not sure. But yeah, I think you're right. And I think that this one's going to come home.
Just for full transparency, I was so confident in this pick that I put it in my parlay originally, and then I adjusted at the last minute because I'm so far down. I didn't want to continue to like get down into a hole, especially if I get 2 out of 3 right. But yeah,
One of the last balls, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I'm already kind of like chasing. I'm already chasing zero right now, right? Just trying to claw my way back to the green. But yeah,
yep.
I would be shocked if this is even a competitive game. But unless there's some Burrow magic, like Joe Burrow, he's always liable to just have one of those games where it doesn't make sense, but he just becomes elite, right? Like he has that in him, but I don't know, man. I would be worried if I'm a Bengals fan. Like you had your 1 or 2 years where you didn't suck, and now it's like, what's happening? You know?
It's to me, it is maybe the most serious. I know the 201's going to be serious, but I'm not sure if anyone really thought Tua was going to be a generational quarterback. Joe Burrow had the upside of a generational quarterback, and I think to me the biggest storyline player wise in football. Maybe the Deshaun contract too. Does he void it with his behavior? Um, Dude, Joe Burrow, why would he not be healthy already? It's been a year. It's been a year, and not just like a year. What did he go out like mid-season last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been a full off season and then a half of last season. And I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just it's so that's for those reasons I don't bet because I don't know if he's going to come out and look normal. Anyway.
The
Yeah.
last
So I think
real good game this Bengals team played was against the Niners.
Niners.
I remember they came in and beat the brakes off the
Of
Niners.
course they did. Of course they did. It's this weird thing. Like remember when the Bears beat them 2 years ago? Yeah. The Vikings last year. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I'll let you take this one, even though it's a consensus, because
Yeah.
I've talked a lot here.
So, like Ted said, it is a consensus. Good God, look at that over under of 36 and a half. Steelers are getting 2.5. So look, field goal wins the game for the Steelers, or this covers the spread for the Steelers. Now, this one, I was actually really surprised to see this, to be very honest with you. 38% of the money and 24% of the total number of bets are on the Steelers. I don't know. So 62% of every dollar that was bet on the Broncos. I don't know if that's because of like the Wales affinity with Sean Payton. I don't know if that's because they saw something in the way Knicks played at the end of the game last week. I'm not sure what you could be seeing that would make you confident that they're going to cover. I mean, the Steelers might have the best defense in the NFL. Maybe I believe Garrett Bowles got hurt last week. You're gonna have TJ Watt going against second and third stringers, or at 60 or 80% Garrett Bowles. We're a consensus on this. We're 0-1 on our first consensus, but I also think Geno Smith was running all over the Steeler or the Broncos last week, and now you have Justin Fields coming in there. Najee Harris got 20 touches last week. The Broncos gave up a ton of yards. Look at what Kenneth Walker did to him, and then Charbonnet when he got in there. Yeah, fuck you, Ricky, and fuck you, Yinzers. Yeah. Steelers fans, man, are something fucking else. I think I saw someone propose. I did send it to you. I did see that. One of their big content accounts on Twitter proposed trading Waddle for Russell Wilson,
It's a
and
good
then was
trade.
telling him to go get Devontae Adams. I don't understand what these fucking people are thinking. They're lucky George Pickens is willing to play for him. If I would, dude, if I were George Pickens, I'd stay home. George Pickens is tremendous. I know you don't like him. He's tremendous. He's wasting his prime there. Um, but in this one, I do think it'll be enough. Even though Pickens will get neutralized, they have Surtain, excellent fucking player, excellent football player. I think they're going to run all over them. I think the read option is going to kill them. I think Fields is going to have anywhere from 12 to 15 carries again this week. Um, and I that defense, man, that defense might have a field day. I will be trying to get them into every daily fantasy lineup I can. Uh, that's what I've got. Anything to
So
add?
obviously, I'm with you, right? Like I think Steelers -2.5 is the right side here. It is a consensus pick of ours, but I think I think I get the argument of why bettors are kind of leaning Broncos here. Um, I think that I think Vegas very clearly, and a lot of people who are betting on this game are not giving the Steelers offense any credit whatsoever, right? I know that you're like the Justin Fields truther, but to me, he did not look good against Atlanta. He did what he needed to do. He didn't blow the game, but to me, the Steelers' success against Atlanta last week was much more a condemnation of Kirk Cousins and his ability to be what he was, and he's just hampered from the Achilles, right? I don't see this as an improved Steelers team at all, and I'm kind of sticking with my priors on the Steelers team of they're one of the worst offenses in the league, in my opinion. That being said, though, they still have a very, very good defense, and this kind of feeds into like the theme of the week for me. If you watch the head coach episode, I think I said this like 5 times. I'm going to continue to say it. These rookie quarterbacks are put in a tough spot right now. A lot of them were not ready, and you got T.J. Watt coming at you. I believe T.J. Watt's actually going to match up against Mike McGlinchey, former 49er, so that'll be a good one. I think the
Good
TJ Watt,
luck.
like, yep, yeah, TJ Watt got 3 sacks against Colton McKivitz, who is debatably better than Mike McGlinchey. We'll let Niners fans decide that, but I think there are similar caliber right tackles. Man, like, I don't know. I don't think Field is obviously an upgrade over Russ, in my opinion, but I don't think it's much of an upgrade. I still think this Steelers team is like shooting a BB gun right now. Going over 20, I don't see that happening. And usually with a low over under like this, right? Like a lot of these games are going to be tight and gross, and there's not going to be that much scoring. But I I don't think the Broncos are getting to 10. I don't think the Broncos are getting to 10. I think like 3 or 4 field goals should help the Steelers cover. So that's why I'm on them. You Steelers fans, you're terrible. You're terrible. You're the worst kind of people. Enjoy your 2-0 start, potentially 3-0 if you can upset the Chargers week 3, but it's going downhill. You guys are going to act shocked and surprised. I don't know why you want Devontae Adams or Jalen Waddle. They're just going to be doing cardio on the sideline. Those quarterbacks aren't going to get him the ball. I don't get it. You need a real quarterback. You have a quarterback problem there. And maybe once you fix that, you could be competing. It's actually a shame you're wasting your defense on that you're wasting your defense on like this carousel of just terrible quarterbacks. But it is what it is. I think you win this week. And for our consensus picks, I hope they win too. So that way we're kind of back to 500. But anyways, that's going to do it for us this week. If you made it through the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell if you haven't already. Let us know in the comments what your favorite bet of the week 2 season is, or the week 2 in the NFL is going to be. Maybe one that we missed. Maybe you agree with us. Maybe we're stooges. Who knows? But yeah, enjoy the games on Sunday, and we'll catch you next week for the first free agent episode of 2024.